In the open interior, where trees thin into scrub and the horizon stretches without interruption, movement defines survival. A kangaroo stands upright against the glare, tail planted, ears rotating independently as if sampling the heat itself. Even at rest, it looks engineered for motion. Long tendons coil through its hind limbs like loaded springs, built to release energy in explosive hops that can outpace predators and cover kilometers with astonishing efficiency. This animal is often celebrated as the ultimate jumper, a mammal that turned locomotion into an art form so refined it borders on mechanical perfection. But in extreme heat, that perfection becomes a liability. Speed does not remove heat, it creates it. Kangaroos are not heat-proof. They are heat managers. Their survival strategy depends on shedding excess body heat as quickly as it is produced, maintaining a core temperature within a narrow range while operating in some of the hottest terrestrial environments on Earth. Panting plays a role, but unlike dogs, kangaroos rely heavily on a more subtle and visually unremarkable behavior, licking their forearms. The skin on these limbs is thin and densely packed with blood vessels. When saliva spreads across the surface, evaporation draws heat directly from the blood, flowing just beneath the skin, cooling it before it returns to the core. Under the right conditions, dry air, a light breeze, this system works remarkably well. A resting kangaroo can sit through temperatures that would overwhelm many mammals of similar size. The key phrase is under the right conditions. Evaporative cooling depends on gradients. Moisture must be able to leave the skin and enter the air. In still heat, when the air is already saturated or unmoving, evaporation slows. Saliva lingers rather than vanishing. Panting accelerates respiration, but fails to offload enough heat to matter. To a casual observer, the kangaroo still looks composed. It remains upright, occasionally licking its arms, ears flicking lazily. There is no obvious distress signal, but internally the balance is shifting. Heat production has not stopped. Heat loss has. Hopping, for all its efficiency, is not free. Kangaroo locomotion is famous for its elastic energy recycling, where tendons store and release energy with minimal additional muscular input at higher speeds. This makes long-distance travel economical in terms of calories. What is less appreciated is that muscle efficiency does not equal thermal efficiency under extreme conditions. Every contraction generates heat as a byproduct. When ambient temperatures are low or moderate, that heat dissipates easily. When the air temperature approaches body temperature, dissipation slows. When it exceeds it, the animal is effectively insulating itself with motion. This is where the trap tightens. A kangaroo startled into movement during a heat dome does not simply burn energy. It adds heat to a system already struggling to unload it. One escape burst, triggered by a perceived threat, a vehicle, a human presence, or even another kangaroo, can push core temperature past a safe threshold. Unlike predators that rely on short anaerobic sprints followed by rest, kangaroos are built for sustained elastic motion. Their bodies expect that movement will be paired with airflow and cooling. In stagnant heat, that expectation fails. The failure is delayed, not immediate. After a run, the kangaroo may stop and appear normal again, resuming panting and forearm licking. But the internal temperature spike does not vanish instantly. Heat stored in muscle tissue continues to bleed into the core. If evaporation cannot keep up, temperature creeps upward minute by minute. This is why heat stress in kangaroos is often misread. The animal does not collapse at the moment of exertion. It deteriorates afterward, quietly, while seeming outwardly fine. As heat stress deepens, behavior changes in ways that ripple outward through the ecosystem. Kangaroos become more conservative with movement, avoiding unnecessary hops during daylight hours. This is adaptive at the individual level, but it concentrates activity into narrower temporal and spatial windows. Water sources become focal points. In arid landscapes, these are already limited: ephemeral creeks, artificial troughs, shaded dams. As heat intensifies, more animals converge on fewer refuges, often at the same times of day. Crowding creates problems that have nothing to do with temperature. Increased contact raises disease transmission risk, particularly for pathogens spread through saliva, feces, or close physical proximity. Ground cover around water sources degrades rapidly under constant trampling. Vegetation that once stabilized soil is stripped away, increasing erosion and reducing future forage quality. The very refuges that allow kangaroos to survive extreme heat begin to degrade under the pressure of use. There is also a social cost. Kangaroos are not solitary by accident. Spacing reduces competition and limits conflict, conserving energy and minimizing injury. In crowded heat refuges, aggression rises. Dominance displays and boxing matches, normally brief and ritualized, become riskier. Any burst of exertion under these conditions carries a thermal price. Injuries that would be trivial in cooler weather can become fatal when combined with dehydration and heat stress. Predation dynamics shift as well. A heat-stressed kangaroo is slower to react, less willing to flee, and more likely to make poor decisions about timing. Predators that rely on ambush or persistence benefit from prey that hesitates or miscalculates. At the same time, predators themselves are constrained by heat, creating uneven pressure across species and times of day. The result is not a simple increase or decrease in predation, but a reshuffling of risk. Certain individuals and age classes become disproportionately vulnerable. What makes this scenario particularly insidious is that the kangaroo's defining advantage, its speed, becomes the wrong tool at the wrong time. Evolution optimized hopping for covering distance efficiently across open ground, not for shedding heat in stagnant air. The animal's instinct to flee can directly undermine its thermal safety. The first mistake is not being slow, it is being fast when the environment can no longer pay back the heat generated by motion. From a physiological perspective, this is a story about thresholds. Mammals operate within tight thermal limits. Enzymes function optimally within a narrow temperature range. Exceed it, and reactions slow or misfire. Nervous systems become less reliable. Muscle coordination degrades. Once a kangaroo's core temperature crosses that line, recovery is not guaranteed, even if shade and water become available. The system does not simply cool back down. Damage accumulates along the way. Seen across a landscape, these individual failures scale into ecological change. Grazing patterns shift as kangaroos avoid exposed areas for longer periods. Plant communities respond, sometimes favoring species less tolerant of browsing, altering habitat structure for other animals. Water points become ecological bottlenecks, reshaping movement corridors and interaction networks. Heat, acting through physiology, rewrites behavior, and behavior rewrites the land. The irony is sharp but unforced. The kangaroo, icon of speed and endurance, is undone not by exhaustion but by timing. Its downfall in extreme heat is not a lack of adaptation, but an excess of specialization. It is too good at what it does in a world that is no longer reliably compatible with that strategy. When the air stops moving and the temperature stops dropping at night, speed ceases to be freedom. It becomes friction. In this landscape, survival belongs not to the fastest animal, but to the one that knows when not to move. The kangaroo's tragedy is that its body was built to run, and in a hotter world, running can be the most dangerous decision it makes. The eucalyptus forest looks calm in the early hours of a heat wave. Light filters through pale blue-green leaves. Cicadas hesitate before committing to their metallic chorus, and the air already feels thicker than it should at dawn. High in the canopy, a koala clings to a forked trunk, eyes half-lidded, body slack with the illusion of ease. Everything about its posture suggests adaptation. This animal is supposed to belong here. Its entire biology reads like a manual for surviving heat, a slow-burning metabolism, a diet that arrives preloaded with water, and a lifestyle built around stillness. To a human observer, it looks like a creature engineered for extremes. But the danger in this landscape is not obvious, and the koala's greatest vulnerability is hidden in the narrow gap between its body temperature and the air surrounding it. Koalas survive not by enduring heat, but by avoiding physiological debt. Their metabolism runs at a fraction of what a mammal their size could theoretically support, a strategy shaped by an unforgiving diet of eucalyptus leaves that are low in calories, chemically defended, and slow to digest. Energy conservation is not a preference here. It is the foundation of survival. Every movement, every climb, every adjustment of posture must justify its cost. Water, too, is budgeted with ruthless efficiency. For much of the year, koalas drink little or nothing, extracting moisture directly from the leaves they eat. Their kidneys concentrate urine to an extreme, and their behavior minimizes loss through sweat or exertion. Stillness is not laziness. It is a finely tuned survival strategy that allows the koala to exist on the narrow margins permitted by its food and environment. Under normal conditions, this system works. The eucalyptus canopy creates a patchwork of microclimates, cooler trunks shaded from direct sun, breezes that skim along ridgelines, pockets of humidity that soften the thermal load on exposed skin. A resting koala can regulate its temperature through posture alone, pressing its body against a cooler surface, orienting its limbs to reduce solar gain, or retreating to the shaded side of a tree as the sun arcs overhead. On warm days, you can see them flatten against the trunk, spreading their limbs to maximize contact with bark that may be several degrees cooler than the surrounding air. This behavior is not incidental. Tree trunks act as thermal sinks, drawing heat away from the animal's core through direct conduction. In a functioning system, the forest itself becomes an extension of the koala's physiology. But heat domes do not respect these margins. When a mass of hot air settles over the landscape and refuses to move, the rules change. Wind drops, humidity shifts, and daytime temperatures climb beyond historical norms. The air does not cool at night. Instead, it lingers, heavy and stagnant, trapping heat in the canopy and bleeding it slowly back into the forest. For a koala, the danger is not just the peak temperature, but the loss of gradient. Thermoregulation depends on difference between body and air, between skin and surface, between shade and sun. When the air temperature approaches or exceeds the koala's own body temperature, those gradients collapse. Panting becomes the last available release valve. Unlike many mammals, koalas do not sweat effectively. Evaporative cooling relies almost entirely on respiration, moving air across moist surfaces in the mouth and lungs to shed heat. Under moderate conditions, this works. But panting is expensive. It increases muscular activity, accelerates water loss, and raises metabolic demand. In still, hot air with low evaporative potential, panting sheds less heat while costing more energy. The koala enters a trap. The harder it works to cool itself, the faster it depletes the reserves that allow it to survive at all. The forest, once a buffer, begins to fail in sequence. Tree trunks that were cooler at dawn warm steadily as heat saturates the bark. Leaves lose moisture and stiffen, their surfaces no longer offering evaporative relief. Shade remains darker, but no longer cooler in any meaningful way. The koala shifts position, hugging the trunk more tightly, sliding to the shaded side, lowering itself to thicker branches where thermal mass might still offer relief. Each adjustment costs energy. Each climb or descent adds heat rather than removing it. The animal system, designed to operate with minimal throughput, begins to accumulate debt. This is the critical point where survival strategies invert into liabilities. Movement, once rare and deliberate, becomes necessary. The koala must search for a better microclimate, another tree, a deeper pocket of shade, a trunk with cooler sap flow. But locomotion generates heat internally. Muscles burn energy, respiration increases, and water loss accelerates. The koala cannot sprint away from danger or flee across the canopy without consequences. Its entire physiology resists that kind of response. When the environment forces movement, it is not just uncomfortable, it is destabilizing. As dehydration sets in, subtle failures cascade. Reaction times slow. Grip weakens. The koala's famously powerful forelimbs, evolved to anchor its body during long periods of rest, rely on hydrated muscle fibers and steady neural control. Heat stress interferes with both. In extreme conditions, koalas are increasingly found descending trees, a behavior that appears counterintuitive for an arboreal specialist. On the ground, temperatures are often higher, airflow poorer, and exposure greater. But the decision is not strategic, it is a symptom. The animal is searching for relief that no longer exists where it expects it. Ground exposure introduces a new layer of risk. Koalas are not built for terrestrial escape. Their gait is awkward, their speed limited, and their senses tuned for a three-dimensional canopy rather than open ground. Predators that pose little threat in the trees, dogs, foxes, even large birds, become suddenly relevant. More insidious is the thermal load of the ground itself. Soil and leaf litter radiate heat upward, creating a zone where body temperature can rise rapidly. Heat stroke is no longer a distant possibility, but an immediate threat. In documented heat events, rescuers have observed koalas exhibiting behaviors rarely seen under normal conditions. Approaching water sources, drinking from artificial containers, remaining motionless at the base of trees with mouths open in prolonged panting. These are not signs of adaptation. They are emergency responses, the biological equivalent of pulling every remaining lever at once. Once core temperature rises beyond a critical threshold, proteins begin to denature, organ systems falter, and neurological control degrades. At that point, survival depends less on behavior and more on chance. Whether shade deepens, a breeze returns, or intervention arrives in time. The tragedy is not that the koala is poorly adapted, but that it is exquisitely adapted to a set of conditions that are becoming unreliable. Its low metabolism, once a triumph of evolutionary efficiency, leaves little room for error. Its dependence on eucalyptus ties it to a food source that itself suffers under heat stress, shedding moisture and nutritional value precisely when it is needed most. The forest and the animal are coupled systems. When one overheats, the other cannot compensate indefinitely. Seen this way, the koala is not a symbol of resilience, but of precision. It survives by threading a narrow path through energy, water, and temperature constraints, relying on a stable climate to keep that path open. Heat domes close it abruptly. The air becomes hotter than the body, the trees warmer than the skin, and movement more costly than rest. What looks like a peaceful animal dozing in the canopy is, under these conditions, an organism balanced on the edge of physiological collapse. In the end, the danger is not dramatic. There is no chase, no sudden strike. The failure unfolds slowly, invisibly, measured in degrees and minutes rather than wounds. A koala does not lose a fight with heat in a single moment. It loses it by being forced to spend energy it cannot replace, to move when stillness was the plan, and to rely on cooling mechanisms that stop working precisely when they are needed most. The forest remains standing. The leaves still rustle. But the system that once made this animal safe has quietly turned against it. From above, the tropical coast looks unchanged. The water is still blue-green, the surface broken only by slow ripples and the occasional swirl where something large has turned below. There are no shock waves, no violence, no obvious crisis. And yet, beneath that calm surface, the floor is disappearing. Dugongs move through this world with a patience that looks almost ancient. Heavy-bodied and deliberate, they glide just above the seabed, noses down, lips probing the sediment with practiced precision. They are not hunters in the way sharks or dolphins are hunters. They do not test options or switch prey when conditions change. Dugongs are specialists to the core. Their survival is welded to seagrass meadows, vast underwater plains of slow-growing plants rooted in shallow coastal sediments. No seagrass, no dugongs. There is no backup plan. Seagrass is not just food, it is geography. Dugongs memorize feeding grounds the way terrestrial herbivores memorize migration routes. Generations return to the same meadows, the same coastal shelves, the same sheltered bays where water clarity, light penetration, and sediment stability allow seagrass to grow dense and nutritious. A healthy meadow provides everything a dugong needs. Carbohydrates for energy, enough protein to maintain muscle, and a predictable landscape that allows feeding without excessive movement. In this system, energy input and energy expenditure are balanced with remarkable precision. Ocean heat breaks that balance without ever announcing itself. When water temperatures rise beyond historical norms, seagrass does not burn or bleach the way coral does. It weakens. Heat stresses the plant's photosynthetic machinery, reducing growth rates and carbohydrate storage. At the same time, warmer water holds less dissolved oxygen, altering sediment chemistry around seagrass roots. Add coastal runoff, nutrient-rich water from floods, agriculture, or urban development, and the problem compounds. Algal blooms cloud the water, blocking light. Fine sediments settle over leaves, smothering them. What follows is not a dramatic collapse, but patchy dieback. Meadows thin. Gaps appear. productivity drops. To a dugong, this is catastrophic, long before it looks catastrophic to us. A dugong feeding in a degraded meadow must work harder for the same return. Each bite pulls up less biomass. Each feeding trail, the characteristic furrow left behind as a dugong uproots seagrass, yields fewer calories than it did years before. Dugongs respond the only way they can, by traveling farther. They range wider along the coast, crossing open sand flats, moving between increasingly isolated patches of suitable habitat. This movement is slow, steady, and costly. Here is where the energy math turns brutal. Dugongs are large mammals, but they are not fast metabolisms. Like many herbivores, they operate close to energetic margins, relying on constant intake rather than large fat reserves. Every kilometer traveled burns energy that must be replaced with food. In a healthy system, that trade makes sense. In a degraded one, it does not. More travel combined with less nutrition creates a deficit that accumulates quietly. There is no dramatic moment where the dugong fails. Instead, body condition erodes. Muscle mass decreases. Fat layers thin. Immune function weakens. The dugong still swims. It still feeds. To an untrained eye, it looks alive and functional. But the buffer is gone. Reproduction is where this hidden deficit reveals itself. Dugongs have one of the slowest reproductive rates among marine mammals. Females give birth to a single calf after a long gestation, and calves depend on their mothers for extended periods, nursing while gradually learning to graze seagrass themselves. Lactation is energetically expensive. It demands surplus energy beyond simple survival. When food quality and quantity decline, that surplus disappears first. A female in poor body condition may delay reproduction entirely. If she does conceive, milk production may be insufficient. Calves grow slowly, wean later, or fail outright. Mortality rises not because calves are attacked or stranded, but because they are undernourished from the start. A population can appear stable for years, while recruitment silently collapses beneath the surface. This is the failure point. Not death, but the absence of replacement. As older dugongs age out of the population, there are fewer young animals to take their place. Numbers decline slowly, then suddenly, as the demographic structure tips. By the time the loss becomes visible in surveys, the process has been underway for decades. There is no single event to point to, no dramatic footage to replay. The cause is distributed across space and time, written into water temperature graphs and seagrass growth rates rather than wounds. The ecological consequences extend far beyond dugongs themselves. Seagrass meadows are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth. They stabilize sediments, improve water clarity, and act as nurseries for fish and invertebrates. When dugongs graze healthy meadows, they play a role in maintaining that productivity, preventing senescent growth and promoting nutrient cycling. When both seagrass and dugongs decline, the system unravels from both ends. Bare sediments resuspend more easily, increasing turbidity and further reducing light penetration. Fish that depended on seagrass for shelter and breeding grounds lose habitat. Predatory dynamics shift as prey species redistribute or vanish. Coastal food webs simplify, becoming more fragile and less capable of absorbing additional stress. There is also a spatial trap embedded in this process. Dugongs are coastal animals. Their habitat overlaps heavily with human activity, shipping, fishing, tourism, coastal development. As seagrass becomes patchier, dugongs are forced to move through more dangerous corridors to reach remaining feeding grounds. Boat strikes increase. Entanglements rise. These threats are often framed as primary dangers, but in reality they become lethal because heat has already weakened the animals. A dugong in good condition can survive injuries or stress that a nutritionally compromised individual cannot. What makes ocean heat particularly deceptive is its lack of spectacle. There is no single predator to blame, no visible aggressor. Heat does not chase dugongs. It does not wound them. It removes the floor beneath them, grain by grain, until movement costs more than feeding can repay. This is starvation without drama, collapse without noise. From a physiological perspective, the dugong's specialization is both its strength and its vulnerability. Its skull, teeth, and digestive system are all optimized for grazing tough seagrass rhizomes. Its slow, energy-efficient swimming minimizes unnecessary expenditure. These traits allow dugongs to thrive for millions of years in stable coastal systems. They did not prepare the species for rapid, widespread habitat degradation occurring simultaneously across vast stretches of coastline. There is a quiet cruelty in how this plays out. A dugong does not know that a meadow will not recover next season. It does not anticipate long-term decline. It responds locally, doing what worked before, moving to the next patch, then the next, trusting that the system will eventually balance out. But when heat and runoff push multiple meadows past their recovery threshold, there is no next place left. Seen this way, ocean heat is not a threat in the conventional sense. It is an eraser. It removes the environmental structures that made survival possible without ever touching the animal directly. The dugong's decline is not a story of failure or weakness. It is a story of dependence on plants that grow slowly, on water that stays clear, on temperatures that remain within a narrow band. The final punch is not emotional. It is structural. When heat alters the base of the system, everything above it becomes unstable. Dugongs vanish not because they are outcompeted or outgunned, but because the landscape they were built for no longer exists in the form required to sustain them. In the end, the water can still look calm. Dugongs can still surface, breathe, and dive again. But beneath that surface, the energy equation has turned against them. Heat does not announce itself as an enemy. It simply subtracts, quietly and persistently, until survival becomes mathematically impossible. And when the floor disappears, even the most peaceful giants have nowhere left to stand. The Australian interior is a place where heat does not arrive suddenly. It accumulates. By mid-morning, the ground has already begun to radiate yesterday's sun back into the air, and every rock, termite mound, and exposed root becomes a slow-burning heater. This is where the perentie lives, Australia's largest monitor lizard, long-bodied and alert. Its presence often betrayed only by the scrape of claws on stone or the sudden stillness of prey. A reptile like this is expected to thrive in heat. Cold slows it. Warmth animates it. And for much of the year, that assumption holds true. But there is a point beyond which heat stops being fuel and becomes poison. The perentie does not flee that line. It crosses it by accident. Unlike mammals, reptiles do not generate significant internal heat. Their body temperature is a negotiation with the environment, managed through behavior rather than metabolism. For the perentie, thermoregulation is a constant choreography, basking to raise temperature in the cool morning, flattening its body to increase surface area and absorb radiant heat, then lifting itself on extended limbs as the sun strengthens, reducing contact with the ground. When temperatures climb higher, it retreats into shade, slips into burrows, or wedges itself into rock crevices where thermal inertia slows the rise of heat. Every posture, every location is chosen with temperature in mind. In a functional system, this works beautifully. The perentie heats quickly in the morning, reaching optimal body temperature for movement, digestion, and hunting. Its muscles become powerful, its reactions fast. As the day grows hotter, it cycles between sun and shade, never letting its core drift too far in either direction. Burrows, often abandoned wombat dens or self-dug shelters, serve as thermal vaults, maintaining temperatures far below the surface extremes. These refuges are not optional conveniences. They are essential infrastructure, as critical to survival as food. The problem arises when the environment breaks the gradient that thermoregulation depends on. During extreme heat events, ground temperatures can exceed the perentie's preferred body temperature by a wide margin. Rocks become too hot to touch. Soil radiates heat upward long after sunset. Shade no longer means cool. It simply means less sun. A lizard pressed flat against the ground in these conditions does not gain heat. It absorbs it. Lifting the body helps, but only marginally, because the air itself is hot and often still. The perentie's usual toolkit stops working, not because it is flawed, but because the environment has removed the options it relies on. This creates a thermal bottleneck. The perentie does not need shade in the abstract. It needs a refuge that is cooler than its body. Without access to that differential, it cannot offload excess heat. Burrows become the last line of defense. Inside them, temperatures remain buffered against surface extremes, sometimes by tens of degrees. But burrows are finite resources. They are unevenly distributed across the landscape, and they are often shared or contested by multiple species. As heat intensifies, competition for these refuges increases, setting the stage for conflict between animals that would normally avoid one another. The danger escalates when the perentie hunts. As an apex reptilian predator, it relies on bursts of speed and sustained pursuit to overpower prey: small mammals, birds, reptiles, carrion when available. Under moderate conditions, this is efficient. The lizard heats up during activity, then cools afterward through shade-seeking and retreat to shelter. In extreme heat, the equation flips. Every chase adds heat that cannot be shed. The perentie may still feel capable at the start of a pursuit, its muscles primed and responsive, but the cost comes afterward. Internal temperature continues to rise even after movement stops, as heat stored in muscle tissue diffuses into the core. This is the failure point. Hunting, an activity that defines the perentie's ecological role, becomes self-destructive. A successful chase may deliver food, but push the animal past its safe thermal limit. An unsuccessful one delivers only heat debt. Unlike mammals, reptiles cannot rapidly dump excess heat through sweating or panting. Their cooling options are external and slow. Once core temperature climbs too high, neurological function degrades. Coordination falters. Decision-making becomes unreliable. A lizard in this state is vulnerable not only to predators, but to simple environmental hazards, misjudging distances, failing to retreat in time, or being forced to remain exposed longer than planned. As extreme heat reshapes the perentie's daily rhythm, it also reshapes the ecosystem around it. Activity shifts toward early morning, late evening, or night, compressing hunting into narrower windows. Prey species respond in turn, altering their own schedules to avoid peak danger. Some benefit from reduced predation during daylight hours, while others face increased pressure at dawn and dusk. This temporal reshuffling changes encounter rates, survival odds, and ultimately, population dynamics. Scavenging increases as well. Animals that die from heat stress or dehydration become resources, drawing perenties and other predators to carcasses concentrated near limited refuges or water sources. These sites become hotspots of interaction, where competition intensifies and disease transmission risks rise. Burrows that once served as private thermal shelters turn into contested real estate, occupied sequentially or simultaneously by species with conflicting needs. Aggressive encounters increase, not because animals have become more hostile, but because the landscape has reduced the number of safe options. There is a deeper irony here. The perentia's reputation as a heat-loving reptile obscures how narrow its optimal range truly is. Reptiles are not immune to overheating, they are simply exposed to it in a different way. Their bodies lack the buffering capacity of endotherms. When conditions exceed their tolerance, there is no internal mechanism to compensate. The margin for error is thin, and once crossed, recovery depends entirely on external relief. From a physiological standpoint, overheating in reptiles leads to cascading failures. Enzymatic reactions slow or stop. Cardiac performance declines. Muscles lose strength. In extreme cases, cellular damage accumulates, and organ systems begin to fail. These processes are not visible from a distance. A perentie lying motionless near a burrow entrance may look like it is resting. In reality, it may be balancing on the edge of thermal collapse, unable to move without worsening its condition. The ecological consequences extend beyond individual animals. As perenties alter their behavior, their influence on prey populations shifts. Species that were previously regulated by consistent predation pressure may experience temporary release, leading to localized booms. Others may suffer increased predation during compressed activity windows. These changes ripple outward, affecting vegetation through altered grazing pressure, insect populations through shifts in predation, and even soil structure as burrow use intensifies. Heat, in this context, is not just a background condition. It is an active force shaping interactions, decisions, and survival. The perentia's struggle reveals a broader truth about extreme environments. Adaptation does not guarantee immunity. It guarantees competence within a defined range. When that range is exceeded, specialization becomes vulnerability. The image of a reptile basking in the sun carries an assumption of comfort, even indulgence. But in a landscape where the ground itself burns and shade no longer cools, basking turns into exposure. The perentia, master of heat management under normal conditions, finds itself trapped by the very strategy that made it successful. It does not flee the heat because it cannot outrun it. Instead, it negotiates minute by minute, posture by posture, hoping for access to a refuge that is truly cooler, not just darker. In this world, the greatest threat is not the sun overhead, but the loss of thermal escape routes. When burrows are scarce, ground temperatures relentless, and hunting unavoidable, the perentia's strength works against it. Activity becomes dangerous, stillness becomes mandatory, and the animal that once dominated the heat finds that it too can cook, slowly, silently, and without spectacle. This is the hidden cost of extreme heat for reptiles. Not immediate death, but the gradual erosion of options. When every choice carries thermal risk, survival becomes a narrowing corridor, and even the most heat-adapted predators must retreat, wait, or fail. At the edge of a eucalyptus forest, where bark peels in pale ribbons and leaves hang stiff in the heat, a tree frog presses itself into a narrow crease between trunk and branch. From a distance, it looks like a fragment of the tree itself, still flattened, perfectly placed. This is not camouflage chosen for predators. It is chosen for physics. For a small-bodied amphibian, survival is not about strength or speed, but about holding onto moisture long enough to breathe. Tree frogs live on a razor-thin margin between water and air. Their skin is not armor. It is a membrane, soft, permeable, alive with blood vessels that pull oxygen directly from the environment. Lungs help, but they are not the whole story. A significant portion of respiration happens through the skin itself, which must remain moist to function. Water loss is not just dehydration. It is suffocation in slow motion. Every gram of water that evaporates from a frog's skin takes heat with it, providing cooling, but it also strips away the medium through which oxygen moves into the body. Cooling and breathing are inseparable. Lose one, and the other collapses with it. In normal conditions, tree frogs are masters of micro-habitat selection. They retreat into leaf axils where rainwater pools, tuck themselves beneath loose bark, wedge into crevices where humidity lingers even as the surrounding air dries. Many species reduce activity during the day, emerging at night when temperatures fall and moisture returns. Their entire behavioral rhythm is tuned to the daily breathing of the forest. Dry exhale by day, humid inhale by night. As long as that cycle holds, frogs endure. Extreme heat breaks the rhythm. During prolonged heat events, humidity drops and stays low. Leaves lose moisture and stiffen. Bark dries and contracts, opening gaps that no longer trap damp air. Leaf bases that once held cool water become dusty funnels. The microhabitats frogs depend on do not disappear dramatically. They fail quietly one by one, becoming just dry enough to stop working. A frog sheltering in what should be a safe pocket does not realize it is in danger until its skin begins to tighten and its cooling slows. This is the start of the desiccation spiral. As moisture on the skin evaporates faster than it can be replaced, evaporative cooling becomes briefly intense and then abruptly ineffective. The frog cools rapidly at first, but at a terrible cost. Water loss accelerates. Blood thickens. Oxygen diffusion across the skin slows as the surface dries. To compensate, the frog increases movement, subtle shifts at first, then more deliberate repositioning, searching for a damper surface, a deeper crevice, a cooler patch of bark. Each movement increases exposure to dry air and sun, compounding the problem. Unlike mammals, frogs cannot drink their way out of dehydration in the moment. They absorb water through their skin, relying on contact with moist surfaces rather than liquid intake. In a landscape where every surface is drying simultaneously, there is nowhere to refill the tank. The frog's small size, often cited as an advantage, becomes a curse. A high surface area to volume ratio means heat and water move in and out of the body rapidly. What takes hours to affect a larger animal can overwhelm a frog in minutes. The failure point arrives when movement becomes unavoidable. A frog that remains still risks drying where it sits. A frog that moves risks everything else. Daytime movement exposes it to lethal ground temperatures, direct solar radiation, and predators that key in on motion. Birds, reptiles, even insects notice a frog that should not be moving at this hour. The frog's skin, already compromised, loses moisture even faster in open air. The act of searching for salvation becomes the mechanism of collapse. Heat casualties in frogs are rarely dramatic. There is no thrashing, no extended struggle. A frog simply slows, posture flattening as muscles lose coordination. Skin dries further, becoming dull instead of glossy. Respiration falters. Once oxygen uptake through the skin drops below a critical threshold, tissues begin to starve. Collapse follows quickly. Recovery is unlikely unless the frog reaches a saturated refuge in time, a rare outcome during sustained heat. At the population level, these individual failures add up. Frogs are often the first vertebrates to disappear during heat-driven droughts, not because they are fragile, but because their physiology is directly exposed to atmospheric conditions. When frogs decline, the effects ripple outward with surprising speed. Insects that were once suppressed by nightly predation begin to surge. Mosquito populations, in particular, respond rapidly, exploiting standing water that persists even as surrounding habitats dry. With fewer frogs feeding at night, larval survival increases and adult swarms intensify. This is not just a nuisance effect. Increased mosquito pressure alters disease dynamics for other animals, including birds and mammals. It changes behavior, forcing species to shift activity patterns to avoid peak insect hours, further reshaping ecological interactions. Plants feel the effects as well. Insects released from predation pressure can defoliate seedlings and stress mature vegetation already weakened by heat. What began as a failure in a hidden crevice becomes a landscape-level imbalance. Tree frogs also play a quieter but equally important role as indicators. Because their skin integrates temperature, humidity, and air quality into a single physiological interface, frogs respond early and sharply to environmental stress. Their disappearance is not an isolated tragedy. It is an early warning that the fine-scale structure of the habitat, the microclimates that cushion extremes, has begun to unravel. There is a cruel asymmetry in how heat treats small bodies. Frogs do not get a second chance because they do not have reserves. They cannot coast through bad conditions on stored water or fat. Their survival depends on continuous access to moisture at the scale of centimeters. When that scale fails, adaptation offers little help. Evolution shaped frogs for environments where water could be found nearby and replenished frequently. It did not prepare them for landscapes where dryness persists day after day without relief. Seen up close, a tree frog in heat stress tells this story silently. The skin that once shimmered with moisture turns matte. Limbs cling weakly to bark that no longer cools. The animal does not panic. It cannot afford to. Panic burns water and oxygen at the same time. Instead it waits, conserving what little remains, balanced between movement and stillness, hoping the environment will change before its body does. Sometimes the change comes. A storm breaks the heat, humidity surges, and survivors rehydrate almost instantly, skin darkening as water flows back in. But for many, the timing is wrong. The window closes too fast. Small bodies overheat first, dry out first, and fail first. There is no buffer, no fallback state. In the world of a tree frog, conditions are either survivable or not, and the transition between those states can be measured in minutes. The loss of frogs is often noticed only after the silence sets in. Nights that once pulsed with calls become empty. Insects fill the void. The forest still stands, leaves still rustle, but a layer of regulation is gone. The smallest vertebrates carried an outsized burden, converting humidity into balance, moisture into control. When heat strips that moisture away, it does not just kill frogs. It loosens the ecological brakes they provided. In that sense, tree frogs are not victims of heat alone. They are casualties of precision. Their bodies are tuned to a world where water is close, shade is cool, and night always brings relief. When those assumptions fail, there is no dramatic confrontation, no visible struggle. There is only the quiet speed of loss and the certainty that, for creatures this small, the margin for error has vanished. In the Australian bush, the ground itself keeps time. As the sun climbs, soil temperatures rise in a predictable arc, peaking in early afternoon before slowly releasing their heat back into the air. For most animals, this rhythm is background noise. For bull ants, it is the clock that governs life and death. Their colonies do not improvise. They run on schedules refined by millions of years of stability. Strict windows for foraging, fixed routes memorized down to individual landmarks, and a division of labor so precise that success depends on everyone showing up at the right moment. This system works beautifully until heat breaks the timetable. Bull ants are not opportunistic wanderers. Unlike many ant species that rely on pheromone highways and mass recruitment, bull ants forage largely alone. Each worker leaves the nest with a memorized map of its surroundings, visual cues, skyline angles, tree silhouettes, and ground features stitched together into a mental route that allows it to return home with uncanny accuracy. These ants are famously visual, navigating by landmarks rather than chemical trails, and that makes them creatures of routine. Routes are reused. Timing is conserved. Deviations cost energy and increase risk. Daytime foraging is central to this strategy. Bull ants evolved to exploit daylight when visual navigation is reliable and competition with nocturnal ants is reduced. Their large eyes, upright posture, and deliberate gait reflect this niche. Under normal conditions, the colony pulses with activity during specific hours, workers emerging in steady streams, dispersing across known territories, then returning with prey, seeds, or scavenged remains. The colony's internal economy assumes that this flow will continue. Larvae grow on a predictable input of food. Workers are replaced at a steady rate. The system does not stockpile excess. It does not need to. Extreme heat shatters that assumption. As temperatures climb, the soil surface becomes hostile. Insects experience heat differently from larger animals. Their small size and thin exoskeletons mean that environmental temperature rapidly becomes body temperature. Bull ants can tolerate heat better than many insects, but tolerance is not immunity. Beyond a certain threshold, enzymes begin to lose efficiency, water loss accelerates through spiracles, and muscles fatigue faster. Hot ground does not merely feel uncomfortable, it actively drains the ant's internal reserves. What makes this dangerous is not ignorance, but inertia. Bull ants do not decide to stop foraging in the way a vertebrate might. Their behavior is driven by internal clocks and task allocation cues shaped for consistency. When the foraging window opens, workers emerge. When it closes, they return. Under extreme heat, the window still opens, but the ground has become lethal. Ants step out of the nest and onto surfaces that radiate heat upward, forcing their bodies to absorb energy faster than they can dissipate it. At first, the effects are subtle. Ants move more slowly. Pauses between steps lengthen. Some individuals abort trips and return early, carrying nothing. Others push on, driven by the same internal program that worked yesterday and the day before. But energy expenditure skyrockets. Hot surfaces force ants to lift their bodies higher with each step, increasing muscular effort. Respiration rates rise, accelerating water loss. Unlike mammals, ants cannot drink freely during foraging. Water balance must be maintained internally, and in extreme heat, that balance collapses quickly. The failure point is not mass mortality on the ground, though that does happen during severe heat events. The deeper failure is temporal. The usable foraging window collapses from hours to minutes. What was once a reliable daily intake becomes sporadic and insufficient. Workers return empty-handed or not at all. Inside the nest, the effects are delayed but relentless. Larvae depend entirely on a steady inflow of protein. They cannot wait out bad days. When food input drops, growth slows, then stops. Mortality rises quietly, hidden underground. This is how a colony begins to shrink without ever being attacked. No predator needs to breach the nest. No flood needs to wash it away. Heat alone, by disrupting timing, starves the next generation. Adult workers may survive the heat by retreating deeper underground, where temperatures are buffered and humidity remains higher. But survival without reproduction is a dead end. The colony becomes top-heavy, aging workers with no replacements. Tasks once handled by specialized individuals fall to fewer ants. Efficiency drops further. The system enters a feedback loop where declining workforce reduces food intake even on cooler days. The tragedy is that the colony's strength, its coordination, is what seals its fate. Bull ants excel because they trust the schedule. They do not hedge by spreading foraging across all hours. They do not rapidly reassign roles in response to sudden environmental change. Evolution rewarded precision, not flexibility, because the environment was once predictable enough to justify it. When heat destabilizes that predictability, perfect teamwork turns brittle. The ecological consequences extend far beyond the nest entrance. Bull ants are major scavengers, removing dead insects, small vertebrates, and organic debris from the surface. They are also important soil engineers. Their nests aerate the ground, redistribute nutrients, and influence water infiltration. A decline in bull ant populations changes how quickly organic matter is broken down and returned to the soil. Carcasses linger longer, altering microbial communities. Seeds that were once moved or buried remain exposed, affecting plant recruitment. Other insects feel the shift almost immediately. Species that competed with bull ants for food experience temporary release, increasing in number. Some of these insects are herbivores, putting additional pressure on vegetation already stressed by heat. Others are smaller scavengers that do not perform the same soil turnover functions, leading to subtle but cumulative changes in ground structure. The disappearance of a single dominant ant genus ripples outward through multiple trophic levels. There is also a spatial effect. Bull ants maintain territories. Their presence suppresses other ant species within defined zones. When colonies shrink or vanish, these zones open. New species move in, often with different foraging strategies and impacts. The ant community reshuffles, not necessarily toward greater stability. Some replacements are less efficient scavengers or more aggressive toward plants and insects that bull ants previously kept in check. From a physiological perspective, the ants never fail in a dramatic sense. Their bodies are doing exactly what they evolved to do. Thermal limits are not moral judgments. They are biochemical realities. Proteins denature. Membranes lose integrity. Water balance tips. What changes is the alignment between those limits and the environment. Hot ground accelerates every cost of movement while stripping away the margin that once made daytime foraging safe. Seen up close, a bull ant crossing over heated soil reveals this mismatch. Its legs move in precise sequence, antennae scanning, mandibles ready. The behavior is flawless. The context is lethal. Perfect execution of the wrong plan. This is the hidden vulnerability of superorganisms. A colony behaves as a single entity, but it is constrained by the slowest part of its feedback loop. For bull ants, that loop runs through larvae, development time, and seasonal replacement. By the time the colony realizes there is a problem through declining numbers, it is already too late to correct it. Flexibility at the individual level cannot compensate for rigidity at the system level. Heat does not need to kill every worker to dismantle a colony. It only needs to break the schedule. When the ground becomes too hot during the hours that foraging is programmed to occur, the colony's economic engine stalls. Food stops. Growth stops. Decline follows, quietly and efficiently. In the broader landscape, this kind of loss is easy to miss. There is no silence like the absence of birdsong, no obvious carcasses like those left by larger animals. The soil looks the same. The plants stand unchanged. But the processes that kept that ground healthy have weakened. Scavenging slows. Soil turnover declines. Insect balances shift. What appears intact is subtly less resilient. The bull ant story is not one of weakness. It is one of over-optimization. A system tuned for reliability encounters variability it cannot absorb. Perfect teamwork becomes a liability when the environment no longer honors the timetable it was built on. And so, without a single predator strike or nest collapse, an entire colony can fade, not because it failed to work together, but because it did so too well in a world that changed faster than schedules can adapt.